Comedies aren't just funny stories. Comedies tantalise us with the prospect of a happy ever after before obstacles and misunderstandings snatch it away. All seems lost until a moment of clarity. Problems are solved and the happy ending we long for arrives, never in the way we expected. At the close of Luke's Gospel, we meet two of Jesus' disciples, and their happy ever after is lost. They'd thought that Jesus was God's promised Messiah King, the one who would defeat their Roman enemies and end injustice. He was going to redeem Israel. Instead, the Romans had hung Jesus on a cross, and he was now buried in a grave. The dream was over. But astoundingly, as these men walk, Jesus himself draws alongside them. And as happens in comedy, misunderstanding begins. We know that it's Jesus, but they don't. Jesus asks them what they're talking about. "Don't you know of the things that happened in Jerusalem?" they ask. Funnily enough, he did. And they go on to explain to Jesus his own death and how there are rumours that he's alive. We sense these men's crushing disappointment, but we also see the comedy. They don't see who Jesus is. But as Jesus speaks with these men, he reveals a deeper misunderstanding. It's not just that they don't recognise Jesus. They've misunderstood the very Messiah King they feel let down by. Jesus says, "How foolish you are! Did not the Messiah have to suffer these things and then enter his glory?" And talking them through the Old Testament, a collection of books written over centuries by at least 30 authors, he shows how it all points to this Messiah King and the fact that he must suffer, die, and rise. Why must he suffer? Because Jesus, God's Messiah King, came to bring more than redemption and justice for a small group of people at one point in time. He came to bring it to the entire universe, forever. The injustice and suffering that God's people experienced was a symptom of a deeper problem. By turning their backs on God, humanity deserves to be destroyed by him. But as the Messiah dies, he dies so that we don't have to. And as he rises, he sows the hope for a new world that is coming, where everything will be made right forever. And as Jesus speaks to these weary men, their hearts burn within them. There's hope. Jesus playfully makes to walk on without them, but they urge him to stay. And that's when the great reveal happens. As he breaks bread with them, they suddenly realise it's him. It's Jesus. He really is alive. They run to tell the other disciples, and they go on to tell the world. Comedies tell us that sometimes happy ever after is staring us in the face, but we can't see it. What about you? Might you have misunderstood Jesus? Could he be the one you've been longing for, who could turn around even your circumstances? Because if Jesus really rose again, our hopes for healing, restoration, and peace aren't just wishful thinking. If we trust in him, we will one day live with the risen Jesus in a world made new. And that means that the story of the universe is not a tragedy, but the supreme comedy.